Broadcasting from somewhere beneath the New York Public Library, it's Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Hello to everyone listening, and welcome to our spooky ghost podcast. I'm Brian, here as always with my incredible, extremely terrestrial colleague, Eric. What's up, man?
My feet are firmly on this sweet planet Earth. I kiss the ground every day.
And they're not going anywhere unless there is a great offer.
That's right. It's got to be very good, very compelling.
So aliens come down. A flying saucer comes down.
Yeah.
They like the bridge extends, and these little gray dudes with these big black eyes and these big old heads come to you and like, Eric, come on our spaceship. Let us show you things that no one else on your planet has ever seen or will ever see.
Yeah.
Do you get on that spaceship?
How big are their bazongas? Is that part of the equation?
I would. The bazongas are quite big. Is the
okay? Okay, so you threw a little monkey. That was going to be a clean no, and now things just got a little more interesting.
I also thought you were talking about heads, and now I realize the conversation we're actually having.
Dragged you into a terrible swamp.
No.
Alien bazongas.
My blindfold just came off.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
What's happening?
Alien bazongas.
No. Do I get on the ship? I think no.
Really?
It's a real. I don't know. That's like. Do you go hitchhiking times 3,000?
Yeah, and man, really, there's so many follow-up questions like, where are we going?
Yeah.
Will I come back?
Yeah. Will my mammalian brain even be able to comprehend the answer to that question?
Am I just going to explode? Are you going to have to clean me up?
Yep. Is this more of a medical thing or kind of a psychological experiment?
And what's the bazonga situation?
Yeah. We really haven't cleared up the bazonga situation. You're saying, because I think there's a little loss in translation. Are you saying you have giant heads, craniums, or what's going on here?
Well, I guess we'll never really for sure know what we would truly do.
We'll never know. I feel like you'd be just into it.
I think so. I think my wife would be mad if I just got a text like, I'm on a spaceship, gotta go.
Just trying to explain to her mom, like, why?
But also she would get it. She would understand what happened.
I think so. I think
and also,
pretty good.
I'd want to come back. I wouldn't want to just go permanently.
Right.
But
it is interesting. Here's the thing with all the alien abduction cases. I don't think there's ever been one where the person just disappears. They always come back. They always bring them back. That's a great point. And actually brings us to what I was interested in talking about this evening. Oh yeah.
I started doing some research on this, and like, man, this is really, really interesting. There's a couple of like key points here that I think are right up our alley. Now that I've compiled it, I don't actually know how much we're going to get out of it. It's a pretty cut and dry, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I figure let's just talk about it naturally with the attitude of two guys at a bar.
I would like to note for the viewer at home just listening and they don't have the privilege of seeing this, there's a pretty sharp doodle of an alien in a UFO in the corner of your notebook there.
I'll put that in the blog. Yeah, there is an alien in a flying saucer. It's sucking guys up with a beam of light.
That's fun.
I am not an artist, but I am an A+ doodler.
Can confirm.
So basically, I figure let's get as much mileage out of this as we can, and if we have to fill time, I have a couple of personal stories, maybe kind of related to this.
I love. Yeah, let's wring this thing dry like a tired old rag.
Exactly. So we haven't talked much about UFOs on Brian and Eric.
No.
In either incarnation. Where do you land in general on that whole thing?
I will say one of my favorite episodes from the archive shows is the UFO cult that we covered.
Oh God, we have to do the follow up we wanted to do before.
Yeah,
we
I
lost
think they
everything.
were like coming to town or something, or there was some way we could have.
We straight up you cold called them.
Oh yeah,
we were talking about them, and you just looked up a phone number and you cold called it.
That's literally the only thing I bring to the show. You do all of the AV, all of the social, every incredible. If you like the show, thank Brian, don't thank me. One power I do have, I'll call any number you give me. You put a number in front of me, I can't not dial it.
Which is great. I'm so scared. Yeah, it was really like I swear to God, we're sitting in front of the microphone and we have it and you see you're like looking up the website and you literally just hold up a single finger and just start dialing. And then before I even know what's happening, you're on the phone with this UFO cult.
I'll tell you what, in the year of our Lord 2022, nobody wants to you're the guy who makes a phone call? Someone's going to be on the other end of that line.
That's true. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a double conversation about it. We'll have to revisit that.
For sure.
Because it really is a pretty buck wild story that anyone who's just joining us probably hasn't heard about.
That's right.
But the UFO incident that I want to talk about this evening is the Berkshire UFO incident.
Yeah.
This was recently covered a couple of years ago on Netflix's reboot of Unsolved Mysteries.
I love that. It's actually great. I really enjoy the reboot.
Yeah. So if you watch that, you might have seen this. But it's pretty interesting. As we've talked about before, maybe don't come to Brian and Eric for a whole bunch of original reporting.
No, for sure not.
We'll post all of the sources, as always, in our blog. And a lot of the sources, it's hard to find a lot of like individual sources on this. That Unsolved Mystery episode is kind of the primary source. So
yeah.
Welcome to Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, the show where two idiots recap a television show from a couple of years ago and just be like, yeah, man, that's weird.
Very odd.
Eric, September 1st, 1969.
Okay.
Great year.
Great. Very cool year.
It's Nixon's first year as president.
Not as cool.
Not as cool. No, but the movie Easy Rider slowly changing the face of Hollywood.
Very cool.
And Honky Tonk Women by the Rolling Stones is topping the charts.
That's a cool year.
Cool. I think it averages out.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Jane Green lives in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. She's a member of like a prominent town family in this kind of tiny town
I love
community.
Great Barrington. Great Barrington is very cool.
I think my parents lived kind of nearby.
It's kind of a cool, funky little artsy town.
Okay.
It's kind of got a cool downtown. It feels like a town.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Jane Green's family owned the oldest Rexall pharmacy in the Northeast, and I guess that was a big deal in this tiny little town.
Yeah, that's fun. You own the Rexall. You're kind of running. You're running. You got pills coming out of your...
That's the secret.
You know what I mean?
Eric, we got to open a Rexall. That's
throw it on the list.
What are we doing a podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could be doing a
pharmacy.
podcast from inside the pharmacy, mixing up people's medicine and...
Damn it.
You know?
Why didn't we think of that? That evening, or the evening of September 1st, 1969, around dusk, Jane Green is driving with her friend Mary DeGrace, and they see a bunch of bright lights ahead of them.
Okay. Where is this exactly? Sorry, this is right outside Great Barrington?
Great Barrington, somewhere on the road.
Okay.
Bright lights ahead of them. They become so blindingly bright that Jane has to pull over. Another car ahead of them pulls over as well. So they move to the side of the road and they get out of the car to get a better look. And Jane says she sees this huge object floating before them.
Okay.
Jane can't make out what color it was, but described it as tall and immense. She couldn't see the end of it from either side, the right or the left, which is pretty fucking big.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm trying to imagine Massachusetts. There's a lot of like open area, so like this thing's fucking. That is strangely big.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So
I'm having trouble with that as well.
She's saying it just spans the horizon. I don't understand.
I'm also having trouble with that. I don't know if on some level she's just talking.
Yeah.
Or she wasn't under oath in this interview.
Right. Yeah, it's very big.
It's very, very big. So there's no windows and there's no noise coming from it. Seconds later, the object lifts up, moves to the left, lifts up again, and then flies away over the mountains.
Is this now the object again? So you said it's silent. There's no windows. Did you say it has light? It's got lights in it, or
I guess it must. It's because they reported the lights getting extremely, extremely bright to the point where they have to pull over.
Okay, right.
So that was Jane Green's experience.
Okay.
Now, around this same time, Tom Warner is coloring at his neighbor Jane Shaw's house. This is a different Jane.
Say he's coloring?
He's coloring. He's a 10-year-old boy.
Oh, I thought this was a grown man just coloring at his bud's house.
No, Tom Warner is 10 years old. He's at Jane Shaw's house. Jane Shaw's essentially babysitting him.
Okay.
And Tom says he hears a voice in his head very clearly tell him it's time to go home.
Whoa.
So Tom's like, I gotta go home now.
Yeah.
He books it into the yard towards his house because he's at a neighbor's. And Jane Shaw, his babysitter, reports Tom running in place in the yard for 5 minutes.
I gotta say, a little bit of a lapse on the baby. You think you should go out there and kind of help him out?
That would make sense. I know I wonder how many people are in these are just sort of talking. 5 minutes is a long.
You're just
time.
watching a child run, who you're in charge of, run in place for 5 minutes. Like,
Right.
yeah, that's fine. He seems a little cooped up.
It's how people judge time is pretty wild.
Yes.
So 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a very long time.
That's a long time to just stand and watch someone do something.
Yes. I had the exact same thought. So he runs in place for a concerning amount of time, according to Jane, who is also a teenager.
Yeah.
So they both see some sort of craft appear in the sky. Mm-hmm. And a beam of light shoots down from it onto Tom. Jane says she sees the light around him, and then he's gone.
Okay.
2 miles away, 12-year-old Melody Kidorfer and her family were out for a drive. They hit the local Dairy Queen and then went to Lake Mansfield. Her dad backs into the parking lot, and suddenly there's this incredible white light around the car. Melanie's sister remembers nothing after this point. We'll get into what Melanie herself remembers in a second. But first, 6 miles from this, from all of that, Tom and Nancy Reed, another Tom.
Okay.
Tom and Nancy Reed are closing up the diner they own. It's called the Village Green. They're driving home with it, so it's them, it's their son, it's one of their moms. So grandma, mom, dad, son. Closing up the Village Green, driving home. Around 8:30 p.m., they take a shortcut through the Sheffield Bridge. When they come out on the other side of the bridge, Nancy says there is a large disc-shaped object floating above them. A light shines from it, and the couple says it was so bright it was like daylight outside. There are several moments of silence, and they say it felt like the whole experience was maybe a couple of minutes. They soon realize 3 hours had passed. And
Whoa.
Nancy, the mom, and the grandmother were in different seats. Weird.
So almost as if the implication there is that they were abducted and then put back, but kind of someone screwed up and they get put back in the wrong place.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
So Tom, the kid, and Melanie, the girl with her family in the car, they remember being on some sort of craft, and they remember seeing each other on the craft. They did not know each other before this.
Okay.
But knew each other later. Yeah, I don't know. They were in some sort of holding area, and they see each other on it. They remember each other both looking very scared. But they insist they did not know each other before this point.
Okay.
Tom remembers then being laid down in the grass near the Shaw's house where he was. He's being held down by some sort of beam of light, and a voice telekinetically tells him, "I'm almost done." Then the light disappears, and he's able to move again. Jane Shaw, the babysitter, says this was the whole incident, him running in place, disappearing, coming back, beam of light pinning him to the ground, 7 minutes.
Crazy. So she, just to get it straight, she says she wouldn't. He's running in place, beam of light. He disappears. he reappears pinned down to the ground all in the span of 7 minutes, and she witnesses this. Okay.
Yes. I will say, I do not believe she has been interviewed, at least in the Unsolved Mysteries. She was not herself interviewed.
Okay.
This is all kind of coming secondhand, I believe, through Tom Warner.
Okay.
Worth noting. Melanie remembers, Melanie was the other girl, remembers waking back up at the lake and walking home. Just suddenly, and like I said, her sister didn't remember anything after that point.
Got it.
I couldn't find any accounts from the rest of her family.
Okay.
To like back any of this up, but she says next thing she knew, she was back at the lake and she walked home. I don't know what kind of walk that would have been. So all around this same time, the local radio station is getting bombarded with calls. Basically, like one call is like, is anyone else seeing shit? And then a bunch of other people calling, I'm also seeing shit.
Gotcha.
A police officer is dispatched to kind of like check out what's going on. No actual reports there. But people are calling in from Pittsfield, Stockbridge, Lenox, Egremont, Sheffield, and Canaan, Connecticut, all seeing weird shit.
Okay.
That's the Berkshire UFO incident.
That is crazy.
A bunch of independent people all on the same night claim they saw, experienced, or were a part of a weird UFO experience.
I was going to say this has flags of things that I love about these stories that make them the most believable, which is people independently confirming the same experience, which is highly suggestive that something happened.
So,
thing happened.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's so wild and so interesting. And like I said, I don't know if we are 17 minutes into our show. And that's the thing. That's the story.
Yeah. Well, here's my question. Do we know anything about a follow-up investigation? What happened?
So that is a great question. And here is the following stuff. And this is a kind of a shot against.
Sure.
No local newspapers reported the incident. A police officer was dispatched upon hearing reports, but no reports were filed on anything.
Yeah.
They on the Unsolved Mysteries, they look into it and like, no, there's nothing from that. There was a mugging that night or something like that.
Right,
but like
no,
that's
documented. Yeah.
And then the radio broadcast, like a lot of broadcasts of the time, is not saved anywhere. That's it gets taped over for the next night's show.
Right.
So like we have, and there's no photographs, there's no video. It's 1969. It's the perfect kind of like year for it, where there's not a lot of anything anyone can do to prove it. So that's the thing. There is not much else aside from independent witness testimonies.
It's very
testimonies
interesting.
in quotations.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing to me that makes the independent witness testimonies most believable again is that they're all separated.
Yeah.
They're not together. They're not one group. They're across town reporting the same thing simultaneously, or the same class of behavior simultaneously, and you have these calls pouring in to the station.
Yeah. It's weird, and like it's once again we think. And like they all didn't know each other, we think.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But I will say it's been over 50 years later. Jane Green, Tom Warner, the Reed family, Melanie Kirchdorfer all maintain that these events occurred.
Yeah.
And have all said like they were all kind of socially ousted as pariahs and they stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
It's Tom Warner talks about he's done some paintings. Kind of as like therapy for himself, but like, it's like I don't want my kids to get made fun of because dad saw aliens or something.
Yeah, dad's the UFO Bob Ross now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just paint burning wheels in the sky.
So I don't know, man. There was a monument was put up in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. However, it did attract some controversy and I believe was taken down.
It's really funny. I mean, they clearly have not, as a community, have not leaned into this story, because I visited there when I was in high school a couple of times, and I've been into this stuff for a long time. This is the first time I'm hearing of the story, but I feel like if there was a UFO vibe to the town, if they had a local UFO tourist shop or a monument, I would have keyed in on that, and there's just nothing. It's just a sort of a chill old New England hippie kind of vibe town.
Yeah.
And that's it. Here's my, if we could try to... So I'll say two things. The first one is I just think to critique my own thinking. I think it's very funny how quick I am to believe conspiracies that I feel like are intriguing, but to dismiss the possibility of conspiracies when it sort of shoots down a story that I like. So like in this instance, I'm like, what? Oh yeah, everybody's just going to conspire together and invent the story of a UFO. You know what I mean?
Right. I think a lot of people do that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of maybe issues of like, well, no, if they, as long as it backs up what I believe, or for the sake of this hour want to believe,
exactly.
You know?
Right. Well, let's red team it a little bit. If they say, let's just say, we'll take the totally skeptical view. This thing was made up. It was a big plot. What would have had to happen? I mean, all of these people would have had to coordinate.
Some of whom are children.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been children. And this would have been children corroborating, sticking to it. And then to what end?
Yeah.
Because there's no book deal.
Exactly.
None of these people have seemingly profited off of it, aside from probably an Unsolved Mysteries appearance fee many years later.
That's the long con.
Right.
Angle for that Unsolved Mystery appearance.
That's the move. That's what we have to do, Eric.
That's right. This is all just a slow build. So it's very interesting. I mean, I think the other thing too is individually, any one of these stories you can kind of write off, and some of them maybe even could seem sort of sinister. Like if you're a babysitter and you start to claim that the child you were in charge of looking after is acting strangely and a weird thing happens with the UFO, it's like you should probably talk to the police for a little bit just to make sure that's not a cover for some other weird thing.
Very true.
But with all these individual groups, I mean, that's kind of wild. I will say, I do think that occasionally, and I myself am probably the most guilty of this, people can discount just attention as a motive.
Sure.
Just attention
great
seeking.
Point. I love attention.
Me too. Look, we're two grown men sitting in a room talking about ghosts and UFOs.
Anyway.
And recording it.
As much as we're like, oh, it's fun to just hang out. I am obsessively just like, who listened this week? Who listened?
Exactly.
What are the numbers? What are the numbers?
The numbers say our friendship is not worth our time.
It's true. Eric, our friendship is not good enough content?
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, look, it's not my decision. It's the internet telling us that.
Rate 5 stars and review, please.
Please.
Our friendship literally depends on it.
Actually, you're holding us hostage. I think... Oh, God. Here's my other question with this. That's why I asked the thing about what was the follow-up. Is like, say you're in a small town and this happens. Who do you call the police? And who do the police have another number? They call the FBI? How does that, I don't know how that works.
Right. Especially in 1969, there is a now everything can travel so fast. Something can go viral immediately. Just earlier this month, on March 1st, I have here a USA Today article about this was from January. I was thinking of something else. A strange blue light in Hawaii.
Okay.
And like the government was able to respond, like there was nothing flying in that area.
Right.
I do want to talk about that in a minute, though.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because that is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think since we haven't broached the topic of UFOs too broadly, on the show. I think it's worth bringing up some of the, not to make this not evergreen, but just talk about some of the were you tracking like the Tic Tac stuff and the Commander Fravor thing?
I have seen some headlines. I think you might know more about it than me.
I don't know a huge amount. I was just following it with interest because it just seemed like, oh, this is maybe sort of definitive proof. I mean, there's the classic clip of Obama. I forget what late night show he's on, but he was like, they just straight up asked him about the classic, like, are aliens real? And he's like, I can't say anything about that. I will say there are UFOs in the technical sense.
Right.
There are unidentified flying objects that move in ways that we can't explain, and we don't know what they are or what they're doing. And so this Tic Tac footage, I keep almost saying Tic Tac footage, different podcast, is basically these Navy pilots who are straight shooting guys, not conspiracy theorists, whatever. They're just out on a patrol. And basically, I think they get a report of something weird on the radar and they go check it out. And it's just a gigantic, I think they say 40-foot long thing. And they just describe it as shaped like a giant Tic Tac.
Yeah.
And it exhibits this ballistic movement, meaning it's not sort of velocity based. It just shifts around almost like your cursor on your desktop in kind of impossible ways. There's no heat signatures on it. There's no visible means of propulsion or even gaps or windows in the thing. And I think they say it may have like emerged from the water into the air too, which is also technologically, we don't really have anything that can do that, at least not publicly.
Man.
And then it kind of disappears. And then they're like, okay, that's weird. And then they go back to their pre-designated rendezvous point and it's waiting for them there. And then something happens, and then it kind of goes away. And they have the radar footage, they have their personal accounts.
The footage has come out, right? I believe I've seen that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any formal explanation for it.
And that's the thing, it's hitting in my head of like the literal sense of an unidentified flying object. It makes sense that governments are, I'm sure. The United States especially, I'm sure we're testing a bunch of stuff that is not public.
Yeah, definitely.
But other countries, I'm sure, are doing the same, especially, we're in a very scary time to be alive.
For sure.
But it's strange to me, the idea that, let's say, Russia was working on something, we would see it in our airspace and have no fucking idea what it is,
Yeah, no idea. No one in intelligence or whatever, yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, fuck, they figured out X.
Yeah,
just being like, I have no frame of reference for this.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there's the possibility
I
that
thought of this too. Yeah.
they did know, and
right.
they
And they're not telling us. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it's shot. Even I'll say that I've heard this argument about it, which is, I think, a good one. It's that even if this just is human technology, it would be such a game changer if we had stuff
absolutely.
that could do this.
Absolutely.
And would change the face of a lot of civilization and our world. So even if it's just humans, that in of itself is wild.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man. Bonkers bananas. So, maybe we can go back to the Berkshire UFOs if anything I'm about to talk about is. Do you have any weird UFO shit experiences? Do you know anybody who has?
I actually really don't. I mean, the UFO thing is interesting to me in the sense that it's almost one of those things where it's like people are like, well, if it's real, where's the proof? Like we just have just these, verbal accounts, whatever. But there actually is a kind of a ton of footage of this phenomenon. Like there kind of is a lot. I don't know exactly what people want as the next step besides just literally a UFO landing on the lawn of the White House and going full Mars attacks.
Right.
But there seems to be almost uncontrovertibly something happening.
I
don't know what I'm not saying it's aliens, but there seems to be some kind of weird interaction that people are having. I don't know.
No, I'm 100%.
But to me, and not to anybody I know. Unlike ghost stories, which everybody has, I don't know anybody who has a UFO story except maybe you.
Well, okay. So I'm gonna tell two stories here. I'm going to start with one that makes me laugh.
Okay.
So a very, very long time ago at this point, it's maybe 2004, 2005. My grandmother got ovarian cancer.
Okay.
Terrible lead-in with this makes me laugh, but
Right.
Okay. So first and foremost, let me tell you some things about the Miller clan.
Sure.
We are a highly superstitious people.
Yep.
My father heard at one point that killing crickets was bad luck, and we would actually get yelled at if
That's just prudent, I think.
And the Millers are also a people who we are a storytelling people.
Yeah, you are.
Some might call us bullshitters, but I prefer to think of it in the more generous. We have a joke within our family of a certain Miller tax that has to be provided. If someone tells a story involving money, you have to add like $1,000 based on how many. You have to reverse engineer $1,000 based on how many times the story has been told. Because $50 can turn into $150, can turn into $250, can turn into...
I'm going to request that Venmo back.
Yeah.
Because I think...
But like I found $5 in my pocket can quickly turn into...
Sure.
I inherited a spooky mansion on a hill from an uncle we all forgot about.
We're hiring an accountant.
It's and that's that whole side of that family, man. So all that in mind of the facts can be distorted from a Miller story for the sake of the immediate reaction of everybody. At
It's for the benefit of the audience. It's really
Exactly.
it's really a selfless thing.
That's it. So my grandmother is telling me that she got her diagnosis, which is obviously a terrible thing to hear.
Yeah,
and, she was
horrible.
also like relatively young.
God.
She has since passed away from it. Which is kind of why I hold this memory very warmly, because it is very funny. But she's telling me, like, she got the diagnosis. Obviously, that was a very hard day. She's in the car. She's driving herself home. She's very upset.
Yeah.
And she swears she hears telekinetically, clear as day, swears by it. She heard a voice tell her, everything is going to be all right.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people, many people, would go towards an angel.
Sure.
Or God.
Yeah, yes.
My grandmother, I swear to God, is like, and I believe that was aliens. I'm in the car.
That's incredible.
I'm maybe 12, 13.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
what the fuck are you talking
Wait,
about?
hang on. Let me just get the story straight. So you're in the car when she claims she hears this, or this is later she's telling you?
She is telling me this
Got it.
story.
Okay.
We were once again, the Millers being a superstitious people, ghosts and aliens and stuff, like we would go down to Florida during the summer with my parents to get rid of us.
Yeah.
You're going to your fucking grandparents in Florida.
Yeah.
And so like we would spend the day with, my grandfather would be at work, and we'd spend the day with our grandmother, who would, drive us around town, take us to do stuff. And a lot of conversations in that car, often about aliens and ghosts and stuff.
It's the best conversational topic.
It's the best.
If you pretend you don't like talking about it, you're lying.
Yes.
I think.
My grandmother also claimed, this is unrelated to aliens. My grandmother claimed that her and her sister both read The Exorcist. And her sister threw it away, and the copy of the book showed up back in her house.
Whoa.
Once again, the Millers are a storytelling people.
She planted the seed for this pod just many moons ago.
There you go.
Wonderful lady.
So, that's my grandma for you.
What did she have any other evidence or reason to believe it was aliens, or just that was her sense? This is an alien.
That's just the more you could try to unspool the logic, but once again, the Miller thing is also, this is how I feel about it, and my gut is correct, which is a terrible way to live your life, but hey, I've inherited it.
Interesting. I think it works. Maybe it works.
Maybe it works. Maybe it works. And then sometimes an alien talks to you.
That's right.
Which, you know what? My life would feel so much more interesting if an alien ever spoke to me.
I hope this podcast can jump the shark and we can get like a Great Gazoo kind of character, just alien third co-host, just to pop in.
We've talked about, we on Fiverr can hire someone to cast a spell for us.
Oh yes, we have found that. Yeah.
So we absolutely do need to have them on the show first, and then pay them to cast a spell.
Yes.
And part of me is like, you get some more ear holes on this show that we put a lot of work into every week.
Yeah.
But a spell for a cool Great Kazoo alien co-host.
Maybe they throw it in,
If you have time.
Yeah, just a little bonus for Papa. If you're feeling good, maybe there's a tip in it. I don't know. There's only one way to find out.
Only one way to find out.
Dude,
I'm so excited for whatever that show ends up being.
Yeah, that's why. So we found, just for the content, we found out that on Fiverr, there is an entire, I was just poking around because I was actually looking for maybe there's someone we could hire to help us out with this show or something like, and I was poking around at the different categories of work. And I forget the exact category, but it's literally basically like magic. And I was like, what, do you hire like a street magician? And no. It's, people do tarot readings and cast spells on your behalf. And there are like platinum rated sellers
Jesus Christ.
with thousands of 5-star reviews.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just people raving. It's a whole cottage industry.
All right. I guess that's what we have to do.
Yeah, I think we got to go down that rabbit hole for sure.
So I would like to tell my personal UFO story.
Yes, please.
And I'll say, most importantly, I do not know what this was.
Okay.
I know what I saw, and I know what I saw was weird. I've actually talked about this on the classic version of the show before. But this is probably 2006, 2007.
Okay.
I am in my hometown of Wallingford, Connecticut. We were on, Wallingford is kind of split into like the Wallingford side and the Yalesville side. We were on the Yalesville side of town, which is where I lived, and we're on a street not far from my home. Not a back road or anything, a pretty well-traveled Yalesville street. If you took a left from there, you would be on the street that feeds into my street. And we got some trees around. There's a little abandoned mini mart to the right, and then if you took the right turned road, you'd be at my high school. If you kept going straight, you'd go up a big hill to my best friend's house, who I'm in the car with at the time. In the sky, it's evening, not quite dark, but the sky's got kind of that navy blue kind of hue to it. Clear night. If there are clouds, they're of the wispy, kind of very thin variety.
My favorite kind of cloud.
And we see very clearly a blue light in the sky.
Okay.
Now, there was a concert venue nearby, and you could occasionally see spotlights from that place. This did not look like that. The light was coming from it wasn't like light was on it. Light was coming from
it. Was emitting the light. It was the light source.
Yes.
And you're doing with your hand, you're like kind of opening and closing your fist. Are you trying to, was it pulsing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do realize I'm doing that. I just talk with my hands.
Sure, me too.
So
it was it's just steady emission of blue light, of bright blue light.
Yes.
Did it seem like it was far away?
I don't quite remember.
Okay.
This was quite a while ago. It was definitely on the smaller side. Mm-hmm. Closer than, at least larger than what you'd think of as like a plane flying overhead. Mm-hmm. But must have been, it felt far.
Okay.
High up. And so there's a blue light, and it was clear and big enough for my buddy to go, who was driving, to go, do you fucking see that? The thing zips to the left, zips up, does like a weird zigzag, and then shoots away over the trees.
I will say you're describing that exact sort of ballistic movement. That's not like helicopters don't move that way. Planes certainly can't move that way. Yeah.
Yep. That was it. It zoomed away over the trees, and I've thought about it every day since then. Obviously, not saying it was anything weird, but like I have no idea what that could have been.
Yeah.
So, in doing some like Berkshire UFO incident research, I was like looking into all this, and I thought about it again. I was like, man, that fucking blue light was weird.
Yeah.
What was that? And so I just type in blue light UFO. And I mentioned earlier, in January, on the island of Oahu, a very fucking similar thing was seen.
Whoa.
And there is footage of it, and it looks... I guess it's, we're playing with the memory, and I've told that story many, many times. So
yeah, there's a little confirmation bias there, sure, right?
But it's a blue. I'm looking at the video right now. It is a blue light. It is moving.
And to the best of your recollection, this is pretty much what you saw.
It's a little more oblong shaped.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn my computer over so that you can see it.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a little more oblong shape, but I don't remember enough that it does have sort of like a glow or a blue sort of glow around it that is circular, but like you have to kind of deep look at it.
Yeah.
But it moves in kind of a very similar fashion. And there are multiple angles, like people saw this and they saw this thing zip overhead and then crash into the ocean.
That's another element of these, and this was in the Tic Tac thing too, is this ability to move between the air and the water, to either emerge from the water or sink back in and emerge again, which is very strange. That's not a normal technological thing that most aircraft or watercraft can do.
Right. Federal Aviation Administration. So got it. So this article was in January. It seems like this happened Tuesday, December 29th of last year. Federal Aviation Administration says that there was no plane in the area that went down or anything. Nothing on their radars. We followed up on the report. No aircraft disappeared off radars. We have no reports of overdue or missing aircrafts. There is a theory that this could just be an LED kite.
Sure.
That's how, and could that be the same case for me? I suppose. I don't know if that was like a thing in 2006,
Yours also sounds
2007.
weird because for you, from what you're describing to me, it sounds like it was far enough away that to make the movements you're describing in the sky...
That would have to be fun. If it was as far away as it felt...
Yeah, right.
It would have to be fucking big.
Sure.
And move fast.
For sure. I mean, there's obviously optical illusions and stuff. We're not perfect judges of distance, but that seems unlikely in your case.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I have no idea. But that's always bugged me out and has been weird. I open up to anybody out there. If anyone has any ideas of what a weirdly zigzagging blue light could have been.
Yeah.
In Wallingford, Connecticut.
Right. Right. I feel like, and what year was this? Was your story?
2006, 2007, maybe.
So this is kind of pre-drone era.
That's
well.
also what. Yeah, that wasn't really on a consumer level at least.
Yeah, they weren't you couldn't just buy a drone on Amazon for $100 and
right.
Yeah.
I thought about that as well, and I don't think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like to, with all this stuff, I kind of like to explore, for lack of a less nerdy term, the kind of possibility space of all the things these things could be.
That's half the fun,
And
right?
that's yeah, exactly, for 100%. So the most obvious one, and I feel like we like to start with this, is just like, these could be people either intentionally lying and misleading others for some kind of motive, gain, attention.
Going back to the Berkshire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or really almost any like UFO report.
Sure.
Could be intentionally misleading. Could be unintentionally just misidentifying or mistaking it. Which gets a little trickier when you get into full-on abduction accounts.
Right.
Which is, I don't, if you truly believe that happened to you and it didn't happen to you, how do you get there? Like, I don't know what can cause that.
Especially two independent people.
Exactly. So then for me, it's like, if we get into the realm of okay, let's just assume for the sake of argument that something happened. What was it? It's kind of got to be either human technology, something not of this world, some kind of alien technology, or the whole. Are you familiar at all with like the sort of the idea of the phenomena or like the high strangeness kind of idea?
I am subscribed to the subreddit High Strangeness, but that they were just posting weird stuff. I don't know a unifying theory.
So the unifying theory is that all of these things, and it sort of it's fun because it extends to kind of cryptids and ghosts and everything, that there is just this sort of force of strangeness or mystery that is fundamentally both alien, and I don't mean like from Mars alien, but different than us, but sort of mischievous, and that it just manifests as whatever is most culturally relevant to us and is almost just there to fuck with us, and is just, it just messes with you and you can never fully grab hold of it. And that's kind of the explanation of like why all this stuff happened. This is a theory as to why all this stuff happens, but you never get the definitive proof. It's always just this endless rabbit hole, because sort of the goal of this thing is just to pull you down the rabbit hole. Sure. That the rabbit hole is the goal of the thing. And so it goes back in, like, people talk about how there's so many similarities, for example, between old like Celtic fairy stories and modern alien encounters and UFO stories and stuff like that. And there's kind of this weird through line. And now it's just this high technology computerized thing. And back in the day, it was whatever the culturally relevant context was for those people. And that it just, this thing just takes the shape of whatever it's around.
Man, I didn't even fucking think about it in the terms of like fairy folklore. Of and like our idea now of fairies on like a Lisa Frank notebook. Like a lot of like, your Celtic fairies and stuff were dangerous, mischievous, like stealing babies type of stuff.
Totally. Yeah.
Which, man, that can just folklore wise of like if aliens are our version of folklore.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah, it's just shifted. Like this is just our gods are now sleek, metallic, technological entities and not, little cobblers.
Do you think that we're like farmers? Like the king must release what he knows about the fairy folk.
Yeah, exactly. The royal conspiracy.
They know all about which, a lot of like fairy tales and stuff, or I'm a big fan of Poul Anderson's The Broken Sword, where like the kings deal with the elves and stuff, and there are truces between the peoples.
Right.
Like people sometimes think is, man, I didn't even put that together. That's fascinating.
We could do a whole deep dive on that subject. That's
That'd be
crazy.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a guy, Jacques Vallée, who's written a lot. He wrote a book called Passport to Magonia, and he was I'm going to get this totally wrong, but he was involved in some of the original. He's a French guy, but it was involved in some of the original U.S. and Air Force investigations into UFO phenomena, and I think has shifted from thinking like, oh, this is a pure extraterrestrial thing, to kind of a stranger explanation that more aligns with that latter high strangeness phenomena thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's very neat.
Speaking of alien abductions, I watched a movie today while I was working, and I watched it remember hearing that it was a true story from friends who had seen it.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, maybe this is interesting, and maybe we can talk about it on the UFO. Have you heard of / seen the film The Fourth Kind?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
So I remember people saying it was a true story. It's not. Okay. Is
it set in Alaska?
Yes.
And it's like flashbacks. Or something.
So what it is, it's one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen.
Okay.
Certainly one of the worst I've seen to get like a major release.
Yeah.
That like my friends would have seen in our local movie theater.
Yeah.
It's playing at the like this is real in the same way like
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity or like Blair Witch Project were, but like it's just the whole thing is, oh, this is a real incident. People have gone missing in Alaska under mysterious circumstances, but we've compiled real interview footage and real footage from these events with actors and like a big Hollywood recreations. So it'll actually there's a bit where Will Patton is playing the disgruntled like sheriff who's like, you know, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. It's not aliens, it's whoever. And like it'll actually have like in the middle of the movie, Will Patton will roll up and it'll say like a subtitle will come up, Will Patton portraying
Oh, funny.
the real person's name, quote unquote.
I think I did. I think I saw this maybe on TV or something like that, and it's very strange because it's almost made like almost like a documentary. You know?
Yeah. It's very I can't tell if the movie is ambitious but misguided.
Yeah.
And like that's the problem, or
Yeah.
if it is horribly creatively bankrupt.
Got it.
I
That's
actually
a fun line to walk.
I can't tell. Usually I can tell.
Yeah.
I can peg like you are you had a big idea and you couldn't figure out how to make it work.
Sure.
Or you were just cashing in on a trend. I could not figure this one out.
Interesting.
And it's so bad.
Got
it's
it.
so bad.
It's kind of a horror movie-ish, right?
It's leaning in the horror thriller straight X-Files
psychological.
strange.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched that today thinking it was based on a true story and there might be something there to talk about. But there's not, aside from the fact that I watched this terrible movie.
The thing that brings up for me is the fact that, and why I hesitated at the beginning when we were joking about the hypothetical, like, hey, would you get on the UFO? Would you take the UFO ride? Just because a lot of the accounts of abductions are horrific.
Oh, yeah.
And people are messed up from like something. People appear to be traumatized by whatever experience this is, or they had, or they believe they had. Many people appear to be genuinely traumatized from whatever it is.
You're entitled, and that's what makes the Berkshire UFO incident, I think, interesting. Of like because they're like it was weird, it was scary, but like everyone seems to be fine.
Yeah.
It's if I were to take this at its absolute face value, it's the way we like take fish and we tag them.
Yeah. Right.
It seems like almost. Once again, just taking the story at face value, it almost seems like that's what happened. Like aliens came down, they were going to tag a couple people, do a little research, and like just maybe fucked whoever was in charge, fucked it up.
Yeah, it's like we're the interns at the helm, like Brian and Eric are running the displacement ray that day, and it's like, dude, do you remember who was in the front seat? Fuck, they gotta be. They're gonna come to in like 30 seconds.
That's it.
Yeah, go.
It goes this way. Hopefully, Jesse won't notice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're just in some like inter-eon star furnace for the next 30 light years.
It's hey. Were those the right seats? Yeah. Those were
100%.
You know what's also interesting is thinking about here's the kind of the case against in a larger way of why aliens may not have visited this place is and there's some good videos about this on YouTube, and this was also Stephen Hawking has talked about this.
Okay.
Of to be able to travel, we can't get to Mars. We can't get people to Mars.
Yeah.
Like interstellar travel is so advanced and far in the future for us. Any civilization that is capable of that, we would be ants to.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, could just anything they want on our planet, be resources or what cattle, whatever, could just blow us out of the water. They are clearly so far advanced.
Sure.
And generally, at least if our history is any marker for it, generally when a more advanced, resource-hungry civilization meets a less advanced civilization that has a resource they want, it doesn't go well for people.
Totally.
And Stephen Hawking says, like, let's not make an effort to reach out to other people because, like, it's not
There's no guarantee that they're benign.
It's in fact more likely it'll go, like, just playing the odds, it'll go bad. It's
we certainly would probably be at their mercy.
yes. Because like also thinking about if across the, because like I think you and I agree there has to be life out there somewhere. It's just playing the fucking odds. It would be absolutely insane if we were the biggest cosmic accident.
Yeah.
How small would that make you feel?
I was gonna say that's almost like the scariest horror movie of them all. It's just you're alone in infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if our little petri dish is any example, the civilizations that have done the best, that have made it the farthest, are competitive, resource hungry, and prone to war.
Yeah.
And if our petri dish is the same thing in microcosm of through infinity, any other big advanced civilizations would probably be the same.
So I'll say this: there's an interesting it's hard to judge how accurate any of these statistics are, but the formal kind of count, I guess, of encounters of this sort has skyrocketed since humanity went nuclear.
Sure.
And so there is a theory that if there are greater intelligences out there, they're kind of watching these strange little apes on their rock. And then when we cross that threshold of like, okay, now we have nuclear weapons, they're like, oh, okay, now we need to start paying a little closer attention and guiding this a little more closely.
They have the buttons now.
For sure. Exactly. I mean, the optimistic version of what you're talking about is that there maybe is some kind of civilizational evolution where if you survive the bottlenecks of genocide and mass extinction, you become a wiser, kinder, spacefaring race, and you find another sentient species, and you're like, oh, maybe we can kind of help them along and cultivate them.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be nice. We could use some of that.
It's like the aliens. If there is a benevolent race that wants to help us along, my Venmo is...
Yeah, exactly. Please send us your credits. Send us your droid credits. Whatever you use. Do you not use money anymore? That's fine. Just beam sustenance into my brain.
Yeah, I'm ready for the Star Trek post commerce.
There is a small but growing part of me that's just holding out for work to not be a thing anymore.
Yeah, that's really where I put all of my chips, and I'm just watching the roulette wheel sweating.
Yeah. Literally. I read like one Medium article about how like jobs aren't going to be a thing. You're going to be playing a video game and paying in Ethereum. And I was like, I think I can hold on till then.
Let's hope.
Yeah, come on, baby.
Let's see, Eric, anything else we should talk about? I don't know if we'll be tackling UFOs again anytime soon, if we have any larger thoughts about it.
I don't know. I would love to keep talking about the UFO fairy connection and sort of some of the ancient UFO stuff is really interesting. Ooh. Like depictions of what seem to be aliens or UFOs in ancient art and stories and things like that.
That's fun.
Kind of cool.
That's the other thing we've kind of ignored in this, not ignored, but we haven't really gotten into, is like doing some research on just stuff we don't think is maybe true. We've focused a lot on like, is this real? Is this not? And like, no, it's probably not. But like, what is it? What does it mean? What did it mean for our just weird stuff?
Speaking of, is it true? Is it not? Weird stuff. I know we're getting a little long in the tooth, but did we want to talk about any updates paranormal wise in our own lives? Do we have any news from the personal weird?
I had a couple of weird experiences following our Amityville horror trip. I haven't had anything major happen. I don't think. I will say, my wife and I are going to a cabin in the woods this weekend, and I'm not saying I'm expecting to become a slasher victim, but it's in the back of my head.
It's possible. Anything's possible.
It's not guaranteed not possible.
As your friend, I wish I could say no way, but I'd be lying to you.
But it's in It's in like one of those bougie, like little like micro cabins. That's like it's like camping, but you have a bathroom, which I think maybe makes it worse. Maybe someone can get. That makes it all the more likely that Bigfoot is going to come in and rip us apart.
For sure.
Getting mad at someone for adding this fucking trailer to a beautiful, serene campsite and adding a bathroom.
I think the most likely encounter you're probably going to have is just you might wake to a strange scratching around 11 or 12 at night at your door. And you will gingerly creep up and open it and just find me wrapped in a blankie, and I'm scared because I had a nightmare, and so I drove 2.5 hours to ruin your romantic weekend.
Eric, nothing would make me happier than if that were to happen. Please don't scratch creepily. You can just knock.
Fair, but we've had this conversation before. I'm working on it.
There actually, I don't think could be, thinking about it, there could be possibly nothing worse than being kind of secluded in a small cabin. 12 o'clock rolls around and there's a knock on the door.
Oh, yeah.
No, thanks.
I think I just light it on fire and hope that the flames scare away the intruder before they kill me.
You want to come in here? I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'm ready to burn.
I've been waiting for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's going to wrap up this broadcast for the night. We want to thank Purple Planet and Carl Kasey at White Bat Audio for the use of their music. Do you want to get in touch with us? Follow us on Twitter at Brian and Eric Pod. Let's see, you can email us at spookybriananderic@gmail.com and find everything else at briananderic.show. Also, hey, maybe leave a nice review or a mean review. Leave whatever kind of review you want about the show.
We crave feedback.
We'll definitely read it. That's the thing. There's all those bigger guys. You can leave a nice review on them. They won't
Not
read
gonna
it.
see it. Don't
we'll
care.
read it, and it will actually make us feel really good or really bad. You can actually affect our day significantly.
Quite easily. We're very vulnerable.
For both of us here at Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here, thank you for listening. And stay safe out there.
Good night, everybody.